Hey guys, this is Joe with Unity Code Tutorials. Welcome to video number 7. We have a few cool things that we want to accomplish in this video. I am going to try and start making the videos a little shorter, just I feel like it would be easier to manage and easier to follow. So in light of that, let's get right to business. So one of the things we want to do is add sounds. So I found this cool, it's not a plugin, but it's a collection of sounds for free. If you go to the asset store, type in weapons of choice. So you'll type in weapons of choice. I already did it, but you type that in and then you hit that free only. And then if you come down here, there'll be a download button and import button. I already did it, so I don't need to actually do it. It will create this folder here, which has a bunch of cool sounds. And one of them is actually going to work well for us. And I'm using these because they're free. Of course, feel free to use your own sounds or make your own sounds. I would definitely encourage that. We're going to get to that in just a little bit. But I noticed something I think we need to change, and this will be a good learning experience too. So the tank right now, it appears to be above ground. Well, it appears to be on the ground, but its position is set to be above ground, and that's just because of the way the model worked and where the center of it is. So I think if we go to our script here, the enemy manager, and it will load. Okay, enemy manager. Remember, when we were spawning our tank, we spawned it above ground. That way it would appear to be on the ground. I think it'd be easier if we put it at 0 here. Except right now it would appear underground, right? So here's how we're going to fix that. And the reason I want to do that is because, one, it's just easier to do. I feel like 0 height should mean that the tank is on the ground. And also, when we go to spawn the explosion, then we don't have to do all that manipulation with it that we did in the last video. So here's how we're going to fix this. We're going to take the tank, and we want it to appear as it is, right? But right now the height is 5.8. So here's what we're going to do, is we're going to create an empty game object, and we're going to put the tank inside of it. Now the tank is now this is relative to that empty. So if we put this at 0, 0, 0, it's going to be above ground where we don't want it, right? So now we have to go here. It's always easiest to go off of 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, and put that there, and then we're going to click here, hit F, focus. Now this is what we're going to actually spawn, and then this is just a child of this. So we want to put this at 0, 0, 0, that's where we want it. And I just, obviously it's not always going to be at 0, 0, but we want the height to be 0. So now what we can do is we can take the tank which is inside it, we can drag it up until it looks good. So let's put it right about there. So, that's the extra height that we were doing before, except now when we spawn this, we can spawn it as having a height of 0, and it will appear properly. Because this is a child, so its position depends on where this is. So, there we go. Now all we're going to do is take this, rename this tank. I might actually capitalize it. We're going to take that, and then we'll take this, we'll drag it over our tank prefab. It's going to give you a warning. We're going to go ahead and replace it. Now I didn't rename this, but we can go ahead and rename that. Take this. Okay, we no longer need this. We have it saved in our prefab. I'm going to save the project. So now this tank should already be set up with our enemy manager if we go in here. That's been updated to reference the new tank that we just created. Now before we go much further, let's go ahead and test this. If we play the game, things should act as they did before. Need a minute now. So let's go to where we can see the tanks that are going to be spawned. And the reason they're not is because I changed the frequency. So let's go ahead and change that back just so we can see some tanks being spawned. Still none. That's because I would still have to wait 1,000 seconds because it wasn't. Okay. Forgot about that. Play mode does not save. Okay. Now it will work because it's set at 1. So there we go. We got some tanks. Let's go ahead and just pause the game. Click on a tank, hit F, focus in on it, see if it's working. Why isn't it working? Why is it above? Okay, so if we go here, it's still spawning above, right? Why is it doing that? Because in our script, see, if we look at the tank that's inside of it, it's at 6, and that's relative to this. Now this we want to be at 0. Why is it at 4.08? Because we haven't changed our script yet. So now, right here, we can just put 0F, which makes sense because it's, a tank, it doesn't fly. It should be on the ground, height of 0. So if we update the script, and we come back out here, compile, wait for it to compile. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and start this over, make sure that that is set to something that makes sense for right now. Play the game, there we go, got a couple tanks. Let's focus on one. It looks right, it's on the ground, so we're doing right. If we click on the tank, we'll see 0 and the Y. If we go here, it will show 6. That's because of what we did earlier to fix that, otherwise it would be underground. But empties, this is a good way to fix this problem, and you should get used to doing that for other similar issues. That was kind of a hack, what I did before, of just saying 4.08 in here. It was, it works for the time being, but ultimately if things make more sense, such as a height of 0 actually means it's on the ground, it's just going to save you a lot of confusion down the road. Okay, so that being said, now when the explosion is spawned, we also want to change that. Because what we have happening, let me find where that actually happens. Okay, so the vehicle, when it goes to actually be exploded, when the hit points is less than or equal to 0, okay, so we're going to spawn the explosion object at the position, transformed out position of the tank. This is attached to the tank. So let's see how that's going to look, right? We'll go ahead and we'll take a tank and we'll bring it out here. And we'll bring it close enough to our turret that we can shoot it down. Whoa. Whoa, I need to calm down. Okay, let's bring this over here. Just put it right in front here. Now the height should be 0. That's what it would have been had we spawned it naturally. It's going to be there. So I'm going to go ahead and play this and see what happens. Okay, it does look right, but here's the thing. We did so much messing around with it to make it look right the last time, I feel like it might not be totally on at this point. It might look right, but to save us some confusion, let's go ahead and just knock out the tank explosion. Now, normally we should have done this before. We're just going to delete it straight up. And we're going to go in here, and we're going to pull out our explosion. I don't remember which one. Let's take out number 5. Okay, so let's take that out. Now I want to put it right on top of the tank so I can test. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take it, put it inside of the tank, zero it out up here, which will put it right on top. Then I can focus in on it. Now it's not actually a child of the tank, so we'll pull it out, but it'll maintain its position. See, now it's 3100. It was 00, but this tank is 3100. So now it's at the same position as that. Okay, so what we can go ahead and do is open this up and see the simulation. Now remember, we have to make it bigger, so let's go to start size and make it 40. I believe that's what we did before. Let's also make the start size of this, I believe 35 is what we did. You can always mess around with these two. Now let's go to the ring and let's change that to 35 also. Okay, so if we start this, it should automatically play. Okay, that looked kind of weird, right? Now, first of all, let's set this back to something higher because we don't need a bunch of other tanks getting in there and messing with us. Okay, I'm actually going to take this explosion, pull it back here, play the game. See, because something just isn't looking right there with that red thing. But here's the thing. It's set at Y, which is 0, but it's appearing underground. And that's what we want to figure out, because that shouldn't be doing that. That makes me wonder if we messed something up when we did it. Okay. We can go ahead and hit simulate. Now that red box, that was just appearing, I think, to show us. It's because this is highlighted here, see? So if I highlight that, and then I start the game, it doesn't do it. Okay, so we're not worried about that. So we can take this. Now we want this to appear correctly on the ground, right? Why it's appearing down there, we're not sure. But we want to be able to spawn it 000 and have it work just fine. So what we can do, being that these are already aligned properly, is we can do the same trick. We can create an empty, put this inside of the empty, put the empty just 0, 0, 0. Okay. We don't actually need it right now. We can drag it out, but we know, it's just a good starting point. Okay, so then we can take this whole thing, move it up, play, see what happens. Now I don't like how it shows those. I think that's just weird, how it shows that red box. I get what they're trying to do, but I'm not really digging it, So let's see, is this really working properly? To me it looks a little low. Let's try pulling it up a little bit more. Didn't save, of course. Just pull it up just a little bit more. Now I know that, I'm probably taking too long doing all this, but you get the idea. You can simulate this. And I mean, that looks pretty good, I think, to be honest. It's coming up out of the ground. Might not be perfect, but this is something you can always experiment with more on your own, just to kind of see, okay, we got it looking better, or whatnot. And I might do that more on our own time, but you understand the concept of this. Okay, so then we're going to take this, we're going to call it tank explosion. We're going to take this and save it in our prefabs folder. Go ahead. Now that rename won't save, but it's okay. I already saved it as a prefab. This part will save in play mode. So now this new tank explosion, that needs to be added to the tank prefab. Well, it's actually in here where the vehicle script is. So what we're going to have to do actually is remove this component and go to the top, because we want it to be at the root, right? So then we'll go in here, add the vehicle script. The explosion is going to be the tank explosion. We're going to drag that there, and speed is 17, hit points is 100. I'm not sure what I had it set to before. Maybe it might have been 5. I don't know. We'll go ahead and save the project. Okay, now this tank I'm just going to deactivate it. I want to make sure everything's working properly. Of course, the enemy manager, I'm sure some of you guys had remembered that, and I didn't. Let's set that, Control S, save the scene. The game is playing. We've got some tanks rolling. They're rolling backwards. Now the reason for that is because now the rotation has been changed in some way. That's how we know it's moving backwards. It's because we had assigned it to that, like the rotation of the tank model itself, it was facing a different way than the parent that we now put it in. So if we come back here, turn this on, and we look here, okay, our rotation, we want that to actually be 0, 0, 0. So we're going to do this. This again is just a modeling thing. Okay, it looks like we don't actually want that one to be 0, 0, 0. So, that's because the tank got all funky. So this is actually okay. All we need to do is change the script. Now, how does the script tell it to move? How does it tell it to move? So let's go to our vehicle, translate vector3.right, speed, Space.Self. Okay, so why don't we just try a different one? It was moving backwards, so we might need to do left. That should move it the opposite direction. Now I know moving forward would actually be right, and we probably could do that if we change the rotation of it. And I know that this is already going longer than I expected for this section, and moving forward actually makes a lot of sense. So why don't we do this? So I know some of you are probably saying, why can't we just do forward? So if we do forward, which way is it going to move? Okay, let's play the game. So it's going to move that way, right? Okay, so you might ask yourself, well, why don't we just take the tank in here, turn off my ringtone there. Come out here and rotate it this way so we can see it's rotating on the Z over here. So this is actually going to be 90. No, I'm sorry, negative 90. If we do that, then forward is actually going to mean forward, according to itself. So that's what we want to do then, right? Okay, so let's take this tank, let's apply it, which will apply it to the rest of the prefabs. Let's deactivate this again. Go ahead and play the game and see how the new tanks appear. Wait for them to appear. Okay, so they are moving forward, but they're moving the wrong way. Why are they moving the wrong way? Well, here's the thing. If I were to rotate this, it would move forward based on how I rotate it. Cool, huh? Now the reason for that is because in the script I said Space.Self. That means relative to itself. So what I need to do is when they're spawned, I need to have them facing a different direction. Okay? So when we spawn it, we instantiate the tank, spawn position, and then the rotation. So this is setting it to the rotation of where the tank is already. So what we need to do is rotate it then to face the right way. Which way is that? Or, I guess the question could really be, why can't we just rotate it ahead of time? Right? So if we take this, we look at this, and we were to rotate this, or no, we would have to rotate the whole thing because the script is now attached to this, the root, and that makes sense. So the reason we can't just do this, like let's try this real quick. Okay, let's rotate it like that. Let's first remember where it was. It was at negative 90. Now I'm going to rotate it like this. We're going to go here and apply this to the tank. Actually, that's a dangerous thing to do. What I'm going to do is make a new prefab. So we have our tank clone. This is the prefab that we just made, and I made a new one for testing purposes. So if I go to my enemy manager, I will replace this momentarily testing because I don't want to mess with this other prefab. This one I can break and it's okay because it's just a temporary model. So now as they're created, see, it still doesn't work because it's trying to move it based on the root. All we did was rotate the child, right? See, so if I rotate the child, it doesn't do anything. If I rotate the root, it does change which way it moves. So here's what we need to do. So we know this one is a fail. So we're going to take this and we're going to find the delete button. Where's the delete button? There it is. We're going to delete that one. Take this, reactivate it. That's still a negative 90. That's where I wanted it. Okay. The reason I'm going to use this one is because we actually wanted to just rotate it to face this way. We're at the root. We're going to rotate it. We're at the root, negative 90. Okay. And then take this and save this over the prefab. Now my theory about this, now remember I have to reset this because I was using a different prefab, so we have to reset this. My theory about this is, being that it's using the rotation saved in the tank, tank.transform.rotation, that tank refers to this tank, which is what I just assigned here, which is what I just rotated out here and saved. So that rotation should be saved in there now. Right? Now in the future, if I want to have tanks coming from different sides, which I do, then in the script we'll tell it which way to go. But for this right now, the simplest way is just to have it set up ahead of time. So, cross your fingers, see if this is going to work. We got tanks coming for us, and it works. It works. So the script says move forward, it is moving forward, it's rotated properly in the prefab. And they're coming for us, so that's good. Okay, let's see, what are we at? We're almost at 20 minutes. Now, I think we're actually, in the next video, we're going to get into some more stuff. We're going to do the sounds. I know I told you to download this, and that's good, because we are going to use that. We are are going to use that. And you know what? Let's have that be the finale of this video. Let's play a sound upon the explosion. Okay. So here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna take the tank explosion, which is the actual explosion. Now I don't think we actually tested that. We better check that real quick. Let's reactivate this. Make sure the explosion looks proper. Okay. So there's something not right about that. Now why would that be? Okay, we might not get to the sound. There's more to this. Okay, here's what's going on. The collider is now down here, but the script is up here, so it's not working because we had changed where the script is. So here's an easy way to do this. Right click on the component, copy component, come up here to the top, right click anywhere in this component area, and paste as new. So now we have our box collider up there. Now this one, we're just going to deactivate it for right now. We are going to delete it after we test. So now our box collider is up here. So now let's try this. Now that it's in the same area, okay. Now you might be wondering, why isn't it working? And to be honest, so am I. I don't understand why it's not working. So here's what we have to do. We have to look into our vehicle script. Right, on collision, enter, collision. If the tag equals projectile, did we ever tag this new thing? It's untagged. This, oh, it's also untagged. And that's because this is the tank. What we're looking at is the projectile. Turret bullet, which is tagged projectile. So if we look in here, string the tag, collision, object tag. So here's what we want to do first and foremost. Do a debug.log on the vehicle script. Now here's a funny thing I did notice is the layer here is no collision. It's not here, but I mean this shouldn't be set to no collision. That was actually something I was doing off camera to figure out something else. So we don't want that set to no collision. I'm going to save this scene. Now the reason I'm doing all this troubleshooting, you might be thinking, oh, why didn't you just figure all this out before you started recording? The reason is because I want you to see how this process works. And just kind of observe what I'm doing and see what's going on. So as you can see, we didn't get any logs for that. Now I really want to know why. I'm not sure at this point what's going on. Look at the tank bullet. We got our sphere collider here, and it is turned on. If we look at this, we do have the vehicle. Now one thing I'm wondering about is, okay, so think physics. For a collision to happen, there has to be physics. We've got a box collider here, and then the turret bullet, which is being fired. It has a sphere collider. It has a rigid body. Okay, so let's go back. We know it was working with this one, right? So you'd think, well, it should be working here. If we go here, it is a projectile. But the first step we need to do is figure out why isn't the collision actually happening. So on collision, enter. Here's what we can do. Unity script. On collision, enter. So it's called when this collider rigid body has begun touching another rigid body or collider. So it seems like that is what is actually happening here. Now what I'm noticing though is they're not actually colliding. They're going right through it. So that could be a problem. I'm first going to take this tank actually. I'm going to move it back. Just so I have some more time. We're going to slow it down. It doesn't need to be moving that fast. And now we're going to measure, or just closely observe what's going on here. So when we fire that, it's a turret bullet. It's got a collider. It's got a rigid body. It's got the projectile. It's not on any kind of weird layer. Now, I mean, it's possible that maybe if we look into the physics settings, so here's something we could do is we can go edit. This may be something I messed with off camera. If we go to project settings, physics, we can set here what collides with what. So we have default colliding with default. So that shouldn't be the problem because the tank is on default layer and the turret bullet is on default. So go ahead and try this again. It is literally going right through it. It's not touching it at all. Okay, I'm going to figure this out and then I'm going to tell you what happened. I'm going to pause the video and then we're going to be back here soon. Okay, you're not going to believe this. The reason is because it wasn't hitting the collider. Now, I just redid the explosion also off camera to make it look better. I'll show you that here real quick. So if we go here, now it's actually appearing in a better way. Now the reason it's so hard is because we have to scale everything up. So now as you can see, the decal appears on the ground. The ring is up here, and I think I might have even made that too big. Right? That's not a big deal. So it should appear a lot better. So I made that, and the way I did it is just by taking it, getting meticulous with it, looking at it from different angles, playing these. You don't even have to play the game, you can just do these and then hit simulate. Anyways, so that's that. I've already applied it, but I like to do it over and over again. Let's delete that. So now at this point the tank no longer has an explosion object, so I'm going to put the explosion object back. Okay, so here's the thing. If we look at this, I just figured this out. See, there's this collider and then this other one that's dimmer. The one that's dimmer is this one, which I deactivated. So I did copy it up, but it doesn't copy perfectly. It's just the nature of colliders. You have to make sure that they're working right every time, because the specs that work for here don't necessarily work for up here. So let's mess with the size a little. Okay, so X, what we want to do is make the width just right. We want to make the center at the right place. So if we do that, I can actually go down here, right click, remove component. So the line is kind of making it confusing. Okay, so what is the right width that we need? That is not quite right. We need it to be a little bit dimmer. Not dimmer, but narrower. Okay, so like that. Now we're going to need to put the center for this about right here. Like that. And then let's say Y is not quite as much. We'll shrink it down, put the Y center down. Like that. Maybe actually make it a little taller. And then that looks about right. So now we're going to go ahead and apply this. It should work, right? Fabulous explosion, which that decal could actually be bigger. I'm not, have fun messing with that. I'll probably mess with that off camera a little bit more. So now this brings us finally to our finale, where we're going to make a sound. So what spawns after the tank disappears is the explosion. Here's our explosion. So we want this to make a sound. So if we want to do that, we can go to component, audio source. I'll put that here. Now this demands for an audio clip. So we put the audio clip in here. Now you can play these different sounds and change the clips and whatnot from script. But in this case, all we want to do is play a sound as soon as an object comes into existence. That's why this play on awake, that's checked by default actually, but that's what that means. So we don't even need to write a script for this. All we want to do is go in here and find the sound that sounds good, which I was going through these earlier. look it, you'll be able to hear it. Turn my sound up so you can hear this maybe. Hopefully you can hear that properly. Like that. That's a pretty epic sound. So let's go ahead and take that and put it into our prefab. So with that highlighted, let's go ahead and get to the point where we can reach our tank explosion. Just remember that this, I guess it's no longer highlighted, but we know it was this one. We can click and drag, put it in here. It's set to play and awake. Now there's all kinds of different settings with sound. You can mess around with that, figure that out, change the pitch, whatever you'd like to do. Now, we do want the sound to happen, we want it to be in 3D. So if we come down here, or no, it's actually right here. If we put it in 3D. It's kind of a mix of 2D and 3D. 2D, you can hear it no matter where it is. 3D, it has to do with, if your camera is actually right there, you're going to hear it louder. If it's set to 2D, it doesn't matter where your camera is, you're going to hear it normal. And then you can blend between the two. So right here, if you're right on top of it, it's going to be louder. If you're far away, you'll be able to hear it, but it'll be a dull roar. So let's set it like that. Let's go ahead and save the project. It's going to play. Now, destroy effect. That is a script that they wrote. Now we have ours, which is destroy after seconds. This is their destroy script, so we'll have to see if this is going to cause a problem, because if it's destroyed before the sound is done, it's not going to sound right. And when I say they, I mean those who actually made these explosions. So you can see it's still there, still there, still there. It is going to destroy it eventually. But there was a sound. Let's not discount the fact that it has made a sound in the game. Now, here comes some tanks from afar. Let's see if we can hit these. Just start like rocking these tanks. Okay. There we go. Okay, so we can still hear them from far away. So we'll have to experiment with that too, the 2D and 3D. That was the finale for this video. And I hope you enjoyed finally making a sound and you understand all that stuff. I know at first it's kind of overwhelming and, mundane, to be honest, just putting things inside of other containers to make it work better and make more sense in your script. When you say something's moving forward, it's actually moving forward now. But we have some more exciting stuff. I know I was talking about in the last video making shrapnel spawn. I have a cool idea for that. It might not be like twisted metal looking shrapnel. I think what we're actually going to do for now, because we do want to keep this a beginner tutorial and we don't want to get too crazy. We just want to explore different options. So what I'm going to do is actually have the shrapnel be some kind of thing that can be collected in some way. And maybe it can give you a power up. Maybe it'll even hurt you if you collect the wrong thing, that kind of thing. So I'm thinking little cubes that will be the shrapnel and they'll pop out. And then you'll be able to shoot them with a certain type of bullet. So we'll be able to switch types of bullets and shoot those to collect them. And also in the future, I plan for a type of bullet that you can shoot, which will create another turret for you, and then you can jump between turrets. Now that's down the road, and that's me thinking out loud. My plan may change, but that's kind of what I'm thinking right now. So in the next video, we're going to cover that shrapnel, which, like I said, is going to be the cubes that we can use for other things. We already did the play sound. Let's see, looking at my list here, we're gonna do some more exciting things on top of that. So I look forward to seeing you in the next video, and have a good night.